Hi, I'm Nick Ball. It is the 22nd of July 2024, and this is a one take through the TBS-CC OKRs 4.4.4 and DevOps. In a way, I'm now continuing from this project, DF69, Nick Ball, Smart Creative, the Virgin Winner, which in a way begins with DF68, Perfect Segment, DevOpsOpsOps, everything it takes to make a sale. We'll get to that, but first of all, where are we? We are on my Q planner. This is the planner for the third quarter of 2024. These are my milestone objectives. At the top, we see all the technology, system admin, working with Blaze, political, legal, GMC, surrounded by setbacks, the way back screenplay, documentary and press, music and podcasts, the ad and Descript work, Medical 1, Medical 2, Cape Villas Limited, Villa Secrets, Sienna's Angel Birthday. This sheet entangles itself with this spreadsheet tab, should I say. Okay, so this is my daily planner, and we are now exactly where I ended the last video. This recording here, make OKR Q planner Q3 video 54 la-di-da, was the last video I made. So let's have a quick look at how this month has gone so far. First 3 weeks rather. Okay, so as was seen before, we got a high score here, particularly from this 333 point flag, and let's just see how this is recorded. There's the flag there. So when I do something significant that is worth recording or worth sharing, this is designed to be a collaborative platform, I manually, and this would obviously be done automatically in the app, I manually copy and paste. Oops, look at that. Sorry, I manually copy and paste that into here. See it up here. So that at a later point, if I want to just specifically focus on political or governmental, I can run through what I've done and I can see, okay, well, this week on Monday, met with Janice Baker. Tuesday, 64 Reasons Why for Angela Rayner. Okay, so that happened there. And I can see this here. Now, if we watched the last video, we didn't see this bit at the top, and it really is necessary for what's called information hiding, something that Dave Farley, Jez Humble, Nicole Forsgren, and Gene Kim will be intimately aware of. Okay, so how are we doing information hiding here? Well, we see the little emojis. Each emoji is a score. These little circular ones, the whirlwinds, are 75. The space rocket is 100. The little star you see there is 200. And if we look up here, we see the very first ever award of a Hawking, a little guy in a motorized wheelchair. And I am myself not as bad as Hawking was at the end, but I can only stand up for about 8 minutes a day, so I relate. Okay, so easier to look at what has happened over the last 3 weeks in the Q planner than it is in the daily planner. The daily planner can give detail But not all of this is necessary. This here was good, but it got an on fire emoji. That's 50 points. Let's find these explosion emojis we see here. That's 35 points. These crosses are minus 100. So let's have a look at the Q planner and see what has happened. Well, week 1 went pretty much to plan. Made good progress, and I started doing something completely different to how I've ever worked this before. And that is, at the end of each day now, when I make my score, let's just explain that score. You see at the top we've got the 25 times 3. That's 25 for these on-target bullseye emojis you see there. 25 points each. That's for doing something that I wasn't necessarily wanting to do it as an admin kind of task, or it was pure admin, but I succeeded in doing it, and because I did it, even if it only took me a couple of minutes, I gave myself 25 points. Therefore, I get a lot of things done that otherwise I wouldn't do because they're not much fun, but by giving them a high point score, I'm in it for the points most days, so it forces me to do it, or it doesn't force me to do it, it psychologically makes me do it and not mind about it because I'm getting a high point score for my effort. Okay, so moving back to the weekly planner, the Q planner. So let's first of all, before we look at week 1, week 2, and week 3 that has just been, you can see all of this happened just last week. Last week was a turbulent week that demanded some excellent results to get around the landmine that Spotify created when they retired their CMS, Spotify for Podcasters. And we'll get to that. Let's just have a quick look at my milestone objectives. These are the milestone objectives. These milestone objectives, if completed, will lead to major objectives being completed. Each milestone objective is in itself a significant task. So I've been working on a podcast to present S-World 6 VC CNI CMS. Let's just go to the website, see how we're doing. So this is the website. Sorry about these little things here. Let me see if I can hide bookmarks. Where would you be? There we go. It's a little bit tidier. Okay, so this is SWeb 6VC, and this is last year's from 2023. And generally, I always try and do something significant on August 1st, Sienna's angel birthday, and November the 24th, Sienna's birthday. So if we go down here, we can see a very good idea and videos that show, for instance, this video shows how an entire website was created in 51 seconds. Well, specifically the homepage was created in 51 seconds, but the way it would work is that would be all you needed to do to make the website. Let's just have a look at that website, Lux Guides. Okay, so this website, homepage created in 51 seconds. Just by simply adding widget rows, which is the secret to SWeb 6 VC's simplicity, or as it will be referred to in the newer menus. These are the 2024 menus, which we can see shows the podcast, starting with StarDF 1 to 18. I can see I've moved the menu to the left, and now these little sub-menus are coming a bit too far to the right, so I'm going to have to swap them around, but I'm not going to do that now. For now, StarDF 1 to 18, StarDF 19 to 38. Now, StarDF started as the first of many series that I created. This one was for David Farley, author of Modern Software Engineering. But it grew and grew and grew because I was learning from him as I was going. These first 1 to 18, 19 to 38, 40 to 49. A lot of that is me learning some techniques in modern software engineering, and at the same time describing the software that needs to be created. This can now be seen more on a technical document that I'm preparing. The 6 SWeb, 6 Sienna AI CMS components for David Farley. Okay, let's go back to the Q Planner. Okay, so we can see here on the left a mirror of what we see in that website's navigation. The plan was to go to StarDF64. That was essentially, no, sorry, to StarDF66. That was the plan. But on, well, let's work it out. We go to podcasts. We go to Spotify discontinues its MP3 creation, and we can see that happened on the Wednesday of the 3rd week, and it was a minus 1,000 score. And you can see how that score, you see the week before score 5,793, the first week 5,868. No, thank you. Oh, actually, yes, thank you. That was continuous delivery. Sorry. Right, okay, so yeah, last week I only scored 4,710, but seemingly got a lot more done. But this was the first time I really included minuses. And you can see here there's a little test tube. That's for the first time I included tests. And we see we've got a load of minuses this day. So the minuses have affected the overall score. Let's just specifically go to that day. Oops. Wednesday, Thursday, week 3. So we're going to go over to the right, get to week 3, Thursday. Here we can see the day started with a very high score the day before, 1,055. If I'd kept that up, I'd have hit over 7,000 for the week. I always do 7-day weeks. Not that I'm saying everybody else should. It's just I've got a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So anyway, yeah, great day there. StarDF64, Sienna.gov, and American Butterfly. Let's have a look at the particular highlights of that day. Started off with just a few tasks, getting going. Scored a couple of 75s there. Scored 100 there, 75, 75, 75, 100, 100, 100. So it was a day of relatively a lot of good scores throughout the day. Then, oh no! Spotify's discontinued its MP3 creation CMS. This is me talking to Spotify. This is me talking to Riverside. They've really messed up. And we can see this began because I had no option. I had no way of going to any of these episodes, all of this work on the podcast, and none of it was complete. They were just, you know, little bit here, little bit there in one episode that I was slowly putting into an order. Eventually would have possibly put in Descript or other software and turned into something very fluid. But when they discontinued their CMS, that was it. I couldn't access any of these. Well, I could access them, but whereas there were maybe 20 different recordings, 20 different segments within each episode, they condensed it into one long episode. And on their podcast channel, I always started with a little jingle, and that little jingle is now my podcast for every single one. It's all gone. This started Star DF67, bonus episodes, Spotify, cross-platform, microservices without test-driven design. I had been informed, wrongly or rightly, that Spotify was a very good example of a company using microservices. This is a case of if they are using microservices, they're not doing it with test-driven design because they had no idea that the problem that I was complaining about had just happened. Talking to Spotify, and this, unfortunately for me, every time I have to scroll up and down, use the mouse, I have about 2 to 3 hours before it starts to really hurt. So 1 to 3 hours and that's it. My arm cannot really do much else on a computer. So I was really quite distraught because just 2 days before, yeah, it had been a horrendous week ever since the Department of Work and Pensions appeal failed spectacularly by their own incompetence. Welcome back to hell, Mr. Ball. Love, DWP. The next day I pulled myself up. This is Tuesday, the 9th of July. The day afterwards, in fact, hang on, this is where I got the hawking. The first ever award of a hawking emoji for 2,500 points. You can see this single day scored 4,150. And I still haven't even scored these 2 Milky Ways there. These Milky Ways are for something that I should go back to, and once I've gone back, then give it a score. For the hawking, what I'd done, I'm not a programmer. I know a little bit of HTML. That's about it. Used to know a lot of ActionScript, used to be good at the design side of things, but would always work with software engineers who would do the programming per se. What I'd done this day is I'd managed to work with GPT to write Python so as I could go straight into Microsoft Azure, connect to one of its voices, start reading out documents that I'd created, and then that was for me, that was a huge achievement because I wanted to have others program that functionality and the other functionality for basic SWeb all-coms where one speaks to the phone, that gets turned into a document, that document gets read by GPT, GPT makes an action, and that action is then spoken back. What I did here was create the speaking back. And if I could do that in one day, then chances are the rest of it was as easy. Therefore, the task that I thought someone was going to spend 9 months on would actually probably take a week. So yeah, that was a fantastic score, fantastic achievement. Really a milestone objective in itself. A big milestone objective, one that I didn't think was possible, but just happened to do that day because GPT suggested it and I ran with it. So that was wow, I was so happy that day. The next day, there's a little problem with the input SSML. I had to fix that bug. And what it was Descript, Microsoft Azure's text to speech doesn't like special characters. So we had to add, or GPT had to add, a system whereas, first of all, it would scan the document, change any special characters, adding the extra characters after each one, like the and sign needs a couple of little things after it for it to be able to be seen as an and. So that happened. There was also needing to put emphasis on headers. The trouble was, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, I was getting so into it that it just caused so much pain. I got into so much pain that it defaulted me back to a state I was in previously. I've been in a lot of pain for about 2 years. Whenever I had so much pain for so long that I sort of broke and got to the point where I'm in so much pain, the only way I can stop the pain is to either knock myself out or commit suicide. That was the only way to stop the pain. You'd think you would go to a doctor, but 2 years later, there's a whole story about that I'm not going to get into. But anyway, this pain caused by the Python programming, working with GPT, that really knocked me out. I had a little bit the next day, back into pain. And you can see here there's nothing written down. That's only because I'm in such a bad way I can't even add to this spreadsheet. The day afterwards, mental breakdown. My friend Nick came over, and then right at the end, I worked on SWeb6VC AI CMS, the SMF, swapping menus function for Richard Branson. And I didn't realize just how good that document was. It had originally been, and let's just see how this works in terms of search. So here, all I need to do is copy that, put it into OneDrive, open the doc. This is really good information hiding. You see, we've got all of this information here. And we can see on the left, swapping menus function. What this all really was about, swapping the menus function. It began as a document for all parts, but ended up as a document for the swapping menus function. And this inspired the StarDF podcast as and when I came to make it, which was about 3 months later. Okay, so just to go over that again, the information hiding. So here, any day, I can just copy and paste any bit that I see, and I'll find the document I want. Or if it's an audio recording, I'll find the audio recording, albeit I would need to use my phone because at the moment the audio recordings are not saving to the OneDrive, but that's a problem for another day. Let's just follow this down. So where are we? We're on Q2 12. If we're on, so where would it be? Here we go. Yeah, SWeb6VC, the swapping menus function for Sir Richard Branson. Now you see, if we were just working here, which is how most people would work collaboratively, and remember, for a lot of individuals, people won't be looking at all of this. They'll only be looking at one or maybe a few of these. So we can see, essentially, I've had an idea. I've worked on swapping menus function, and it's here. And you can actually, it's here. You see the information hiding. We only see the two emojis, the flag and the Planck space rocket. Up here, we see the day and the reference. And you see here the reference there. If I was to take that out and do the same operation, put that into OneDrive or potentially Google Docs, instantly found. So from that little emoji, we've got the document name, and from the document name, we can go to the document itself, or graphic, or audio recording, or video. So from this page, we can, whenever I hit something worth scoring, that gets copied into this part, and I will put a reference here of the most significant thing that happened that week. You can see last week just gone, after I'd got over the week before, an awful lot happened. So anyway, we can see this here. Mental breakdown. Nick Yoga Bear came over, helped me out a bit, and by the end of the day, I was back. I think the next day, because all this time I'm in pain and I can't really do anything, and then, yeah, you know. So the next day we can see I continued with that swapping menus function, but really only scored 100 points. All of the points from this week came from that one day before I got into a lot of pain. Okay, let's go into this week that has just happened. Okay, so 15th of July, my task that day was, this will sound absurd, but because of the Department Work and Pensions errors, which happened on top of 23 doctors in a row making errors, I needed to set up a camera in my room to record me to prove that I basically am crippled and need to spend every minute of the day laying down. I know it's not a great advert for me, but it's a case of I can do all this even though I've got these problems. So the trouble was, when I have to do medical administration, I've done so much of it and got absolutely nowhere. For one pain specialist, Dr. James Jack, I created a 240,000 word report over 4 months, summarized it into a page and a half, but he hasn't replied. So all of this medical admin gets me nowhere, and I'm not doing anything constructive, and I get trapped into a negative loop because, well, I guess you'd call it complex PTSD. I went through a lot of physical pain for an awful long time. No one would help. And then there's a conspiracy or a load of efficiency and a bit of a conspiracy at the same time. Plus, there's no oversight. So I can get trapped in a negative loop. You see here, I write star DF67. Help, I'm trapped doing medical admin. I believe it was also I was trying to lower a drug called pregabalin. And on this day, actually towards the end, I think this tipped it off. On this day, I had to basically giving up the pregabalin. I had to go back to 350 milligrams. Basically, I have to take 7 of those pills a day. It's absolutely absurd. This was given to me in 2015 because of criminal marketing and a really, really stupid doctor. But this isn't about that. Although my life is entangled, and when I'm showing what's happened, I really have to show what's happened. Okay, so this day starts to pick up. Working away, working away. 64, yeah. Let's just see this day how that translated. Oh yeah, there we go. I gave up trying to do the camera. This day translated. Actually, I'm just going to move forwards. Okay, so the Wednesday, star DF64. Yeah, I did the political. I had to rush to star DF64. That was the end of the podcast. Sienna.gov and UK Butterfly for HMRC, the NHS, Department of Work and Pensions, Innovate UK, and the Justice Division of Government. I had to rush that, doing that before I really completed these episodes here, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So rush to do star DF64 because I had to speak to people about this absurd Department of Work and Pensions set of errors, and I couldn't really use my arm a lot because of the pain, so I had to do everything vocally, making little recordings, some of them a few minutes, some of them 10 minutes, putting them into a series, putting them into Spotify for podcasters, making an episode that I can then share the link to the people I wanted to speak to. Okay, so what happens the next day after I've done all this? My main task is to complete the podcast. That's my main objective. We've done, and before this there was, well, let's have a look at it. We can actually see it, I believe, on, where would it be? Nicole Forsgren. Yeah, here we can see it here. So started in April, star DF1 to 18. Myself going over various different points, getting very excited about modern software engineering. A bonus episode, the total legal system weapon. A bonus episode, the GPAI, continuing the short recordings, different topics, learning modern software engineering. Represented the swapping menus function, represented for effective altruist anywhere, episodes 17 and 18, because I'd listened back to them, and whilst they weren't specifically about the technical design, they are about the bigger project. The 10 technologies. Let's have a look at the 10 technologies. And we can see that on this graphic here. Get it centered. There are the 10 technologies. S-Web, Total Business Systems. This is a Total Business Systems video. We're now using the TBS-CC OKRs. Number 3, networks distribution, everything it takes to make a sale, marketing and affiliate systems. Technology 4, S-World film, media, PR, behavioral science. Technology 5, S-World VSN, virtual social network, Dreamscape LQG, and VSN construct. Then we get into Technology 6, S-World UCS, Universal Colonization Simulator, how we apply it, the gamification of the network. If you're into Asimov, this is a sort of version of psychohistory. It then goes into macro technologies. Technology 7 is very simple at its heart. It's in savings plus revenue times recycle efficiency, which is how many of your sales go to somebody else in your same network, times spin. Once you're all selling in the same network, you can increase the buy orders and spin the money around faster, increasing the velocity of money, everybody's richer. Technology 8, Net Zero DCA, is a safety net for in case this is actually used as a governmental system and creates 32x growth. That would just destroy the world a lot quicker. So only 8x of that growth turns into growth that people would see. The other 24x would be making it so one could buy things in the first place that were net zero. For instance, if you were going to buy cement net zero, it costs you 3 times as much as if you buy normal cement. By having this buffer here, essentially 75% of all of that new wealth created is making sure it's sustainable. We managed to really solve a lot of problems, and that is also the political answer, because the way the money is spent, the special projects, is how the SRES works, Technology 7, in terms of how one pays tax. Because SRES was actually designed in 2012 for AmericanButterfly.org, but was thrown away because tax made it simply not work. You would spin the money around and all the money would go to tax. But if you tax, instead of paying 2 billion in tax, there's a project the government needs that costs 2 billion. That is the purpose of the network, to build that project. The government still get their money, but SRES works and we can spin it. This was originally designed 2017 to 2020 for Malawi as a test case for all developing nations. However, because of the rule I created, a diminishing law on third-party software API points, I restarted everything from scratch around one API point, and that was price. So the whole system was really designed around controlling price, and because price was controlled before we spanned the money, then inflation wasn't a problem. So it could work in first world economies. With that worked out, and that's part of 2020 book 64 Reasons Why. With that worked out, it was time to then start, and we're now back in 2022, and this was the beginning of this design, which now we see it here, or we see it on the podcast. Where's that gone to? Nope. Here we go. Okay, so StarDF 40 to 49 was getting pretty good. I then put 3 bonus episodes that were really just for me to listen to. Any ideas I'd had about the Quanta Analytica, any ideas I'd had about OKR DevOps, and any ideas I'd had about Allcoms. At which point I began the presentation proper. You see there 1. That's StarDF 50 to 52. The Quanta Analytica with T8 Net Zero DCA and Investor Introduction. That went on to the second part, OKR DevOps. The third part, sorry, these are not in the this one here suddenly jumped its order for some reason. I think it had published and then it republished. Rebuild SWeb 5 in Python, making apps and websites. Part 4, the CRM Nudge AI. Part 5, Allcoms. Part 6, the swapping menus function, where after everything else was use cases and presentations to people. And just to look at those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 objectives there, milestone objectives, that's on this document. This document was a forerunner to it. This document, the SWeb 6 Sienna AI CMS components for David Farley. I'm really happy. I've got a very good shortish description of the Quanta Analytica, how the functionality has to work for the first version. We're discussing these right now, the TBS-CC OKRs. 3, remake SWeb 5.1, 4, the CRM Nudge AI, 5, all comms, 6, the swapping menus function. Those are the 6 components to the software. So let's get back to, so that continued, and I was pretty happy with number 1 and number 2, and I put some interesting and good points in 4, 5, and 6. They were slowly building up, and I believe there was a summary that I was creating, and then I created these 64 reasons why for Elon Musk et al. And actually that ended up being as much for Angela Rayner as it did for Elon Musk. Then there was David Farley's summary of Sienna AI. Now this was the main project I was working on. Okay, this was the main episode, but when Spotify discontinued its CMS, I have no access to that episode. It's absurd. So I had to stop, basically. All of these episodes in progress, this one hasn't even been, it's only scheduled. All of this, I can send the links via Spotify. So I can get an episode and send a link. But whereas it used to, by using Spotify Podcasters mobile view, every little recording I made would have a title. So each separate recording would have a title, and that would explain what I was specifically talking about. All of those titles went out with the Spotify podcast disaster. Okay, so as we can see, worked on this, and this, and suddenly I can't edit any of it. There's nothing I can do, and so I went in the garden. It was sunny, and let's just follow the actual. Yeah, here we go. 11 o'clock, I realise it's been discontinued. Oh, I don't realise it's been. Oh, look, continuous delivery. Okay, I'll have to look at that later. Okay, Spotify discontinues its MP3 creation. Oh no! Now, I had a little warning. I thought they were going to discontinue the way that you would speak and record, not all of the functionality of the CMS. To make it worse, they seem to want me to move to the Riverside platform, which would cost money, and maybe that would have been fine, but because they've got a bug in the login, there's no correlation between the Riverside account and the Spotify account. I can't suddenly go and start editing my old versions or even access my Spotify account. I spoke to the support, and there's nothing they can do. And by this point, I was in a lot of pain because that was 3 hours of frantically trying to speak to somebody. And that involved a lot of using the keyboard, which causes the pain. So I am in a lot of pain. You can see there, the first time I've applied these point losses, you can see there, that's minus 500 2 times. And then let's have a look. Emojis and scores. Yeah, the SOS is minus 1,000 and the warning sign is minus 500. So that's minus 500, minus 500, minus 1,000. So, and this has come after all of this trauma caused by Welcome to Hell, Mr. Ball, Love, Department of Work and Pensions. So I'm not a happy bunny. I go into the garden. Fortunately, it's a sunny day. I am all on my own, And I think, well, this really is a setback on top of a setback on top of a setback, which has happened on top of, to be honest with you, nothing but setbacks since 2011. That's a long time. There's been a lot of great work done, but I haven't been able to communicate it to anybody because from 2011 till 2022, I was incorrectly given a load of medication that is it's all criminal marketing, and we'll see that in this book screenplay I'm creating, The Way Back, which becomes a very good publicity tool for the network. So I'm really beside myself, not knowing what to do, and I've been thinking for a while: should I buy Thomas Eriksson's Surrounded by Setbacks? I buy Thomas Eriksson's Surrounded by Setbacks, and you can see I've given myself 200 points for that. That's the star. And I then just start a new recording. I called it SBL, Surrounded by Idiots. Sorry, SBIO, the SBIO series. And that doesn't become a part of the technology. That becomes a part, and you can see it here. Yeah, here's all the content that was created that day. Lots of episodes. Now, I haven't put them on the new podcast. In fact, I have. They are the beginning episodes. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them on there. That's the point. Because they're not specifically about the technology. They're more about how this Spotify problem has happened and what it entails. It also goes into the conspiracy to pervert the course of justice and the legal definition of torture. A lot of stuff that's not about technology. It's the legal side of it. At this point, I must have come upstairs and I started working back on this document. Which has to be simple. You know, I can go and write 100 or 100,000 pages very easily. Well, not 100,000, that takes a little while. But I can go and write 100 pages on something with putting in the graphics in a few days. That's never got me anywhere. What I've got to do is condense everything down to 3 pages, and that's the hard part. So I continue. That day ends, and then comes the next day. Now, I have to record in a different way because no longer I don't have the functionality to add little segments together with little drum loops or bass riffs in between so as it makes a continuous episode. I've now got to do longer episodes recorded. I'm just doing this from my cell phone laying in the garden with basically the default app from Samsung S10 phone. So Friday comes along. We're talking, well, this is where we are today. This is what we're doing right now, the OKR video. But this OKR video and this series really starts, I believe, yeah, there we go. Star DF68, perfect segment. The Star DF podcast, great intro, 3 errors. That led to a second segment, which I believe was 45 minutes long, the longest continuous segment I'd done on technology. And that, I said, perfect segment number 2, and I called it DevOpsOpsOps, because you can see how little I know about development. I might know a little bit about the graphical side of things, and I can use GPT to program Python to go into Azure and speak and stuff. I'm pretty proud of that, actually. But that's HTML as well. Tiny bits of PHP helps, of course, with GPT, but that's the limit. I mean, yes, sure, I have been making CMSs, and I did pioneer virtual technology in 2002. But after that was a lot of business. Um, and so Perfect Segment 2, DevOpsOpsOps, explains my position. I really don't know enough about development and engineering to be classed as DevOps at all. Okay, but I extend DevOps way into operations, into the advertising, into, well, we can see it here. Every single one of these milestone objectives, every single one, going down to the GMC series, the legal series, because we're making software, or I've made a design for software called the Total Legal System, and the TLSW, Total Legal System Weapon, and TLS Voir dire. Whenever I have to do something that I don't really want to do, I adapt it to the technology. I use it as, how can I adapt the technology? And a great one I did recently was for the Department of Work and Pensions, which I already have 7 hours of video showing their CMS failing continuously. And it was great yesterday to have something for them that gave them something that would make them money, the scammer psychology test. So every single one of these objectives, even the medical, because of the GPAI, every one of these objectives, milestone objectives, sorry, is connected to every other single one. And all of these are what I call DevOpsOpsOps. We're really going into the operational side of everything, but it's initially coming from this core software that we want to design, the TBS-CC OKRs, which comes on top of quite a lot to begin with. Let's just have a quick look at, this is one of the chapters in the Villa Secrets. I did it in 2018, 2016, 2017, 2018. There's a lot here, but I generally just go to part 2. And if we look here at the company controller, this was the design for the company controller to run a real estate company and acquire mandates, which is the core functionality, how you make money in real estate and indeed property management and vacation rentals. The more properties you can manage, you have the rights to make the bookings exclusively. Every single one of those is money in the bank. This is a system that get your staff, when they're not doing anything else, and indeed are totally coordinated on their day working with everybody else, getting to that final objective of getting a new mandate. Company controller. This goes back to some theoretical stuff that you guys are going to love, but I'm not going to get into it now. Task complete, go to deal, extend time. Okay, so this was the company controller design, and that comes alongside 2 key other aspects. Well, all of these are important, but the CRM Nudge AI is particularly important because that is one of the key objectives we need to, one of the key parts we're building. If we go back again to part 4, the CRM Nudge AI, and even on there's a pretty good episode here, even though I can no longer work on it. The CRM Nudge AI episode is interesting. But this new perfect segment, DevOpsOpsOps, I really explain it well. Really get into the intrinsic detail of why the Quanta Analytica system, how the ads work, the psychology behind the advertising. It's really was. I was very happy. You can see I gave myself a waterfall, 150 points. So I was very happy with perfect segment 1, perfect segment 2. I mean, I've listened through them and there are a few mistakes here and there, so they're not perfect, but I am probably happy enough with them to, well, first of all, put them on a new podcast so I can share them. But in this case, instead of me combining segments into an episode, I've put all the segments raw. I've already done it with, let's have a look. These guys, speaker. So I listened through it, happy days, and then I came upstairs into the bedroom, remembering I can only go up and down stairs 3 times a day. Bathroom, outside, garden if it's sunny, because I can burn off some of the eczema, come inside, and then towards the end of the night, bathroom again. So it's I made this everything it takes to make a sale. And yep, that continued with the swapping menus affiliate split error corrected. That's just a continuation, an error made in there. This continued, let me see. Yeah, there was a great chat with GPT about, first of all, could WordPress, the objective is not to replace WordPress. The objective is to make an affiliate network. But replacing WordPress would get us an awful lot of users, so that becomes a significant milestone objective. I'd asked GPT if WordPress could access Azure and do the voice, thinking that it couldn't because it wasn't programmed in Python. But WordPress, GPT said no, WordPress could do that via this particular plugin. I then gave it the 6 different functions that needed to be done, asked it if that could be done, and it was a categoric no, 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 absolutely not. This is a monumental task that it would just not be possible at all in WordPress. Indeed, each one of the 6 stages in WordPress was completely impossible. That was a great document. I haven't written it, I haven't made the document out of it. It's just a GPT chat at the moment. But that was a great way to end the day. Okay, so that then began here. Really, this StarDF 67, 68, and 69 as the whole new shebang, because all of this is trapped on Spotify in a mode that I can't edit. Unless I take each individual episode with hundreds of individual components and then cut, it's just physically impossible for me. What does it say on my t-shirt that looks like David Farley's Einstein t-shirt, but mine says it's quoted from Hawking? Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Now, this is adapting. All the plans, all the presentation, out the window. Have to start again, longer segments, and StarDF68, StarDF69 came along. Let's go into StarDF69. So we're now going over to Saturday. Okay, and we're also now going over to the first time I've actually properly started the TBS-CC OKRs 4.6 OKR DevOps. And the reason is because, well, it was great that Blaze came along, my wonderful Python PHP advisor. He fixed a couple of things, and I had to do quite a lot of testing. Now, I don't really like doing testing, but if I don't do it and I don't write it up, it's not going to work, so I have to do it. And normally I would sort of, well, I hadn't really achieved anything by testing, so I would give myself just one of these on-target emojis. Let me just find one, grab one from down here. That's made the page jump up. In fact, that's made it, oh, it's dropped, it's come all the way back to the beginning of the year. Right, let's get back to where we are. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. Okay, well, what we can find, yeah, you see here, these on target for 25 points. So I was going to give myself 25 points for doing the testing because I hadn't done anything significant in the testing to warrant any other score other than me showing up and doing the task, which is an on-target bonus for 25 points. But still, 25 points, that's not a lot. So I thought, okay, why don't I go to my emojis and scores. These are the 4.4, the version that I use in general, and the default, sorry, this is 4.5 of all the palm trees. That's for villa rental agents or travel, people in travel or real estate. This is the part you guys would be interested in. OKR DevOps, TBS-CC OKR DevOps. Now, I'd already created this section here. So it actually looks a bit confusing with this bit here. I'm just going to, for now, just do that. So we're just focused on this section here. Okay, so what I've done is I'd gone through David Farley's Modern Software Engineering, gone through the chapters, learning, iteration, feedback, incrementalism, empiricism, experimental, complexity, modularity, cohesion, separation of concerns, info hiding and abstraction, and managing coupling. And then there are some tools, and I had some other ideas. Now, for each of these, I created an emoji, a unique emoji that hasn't been used before. So as when it's placed down, we know exactly what's happened. And the way the design would work is if somebody wanted to look at only all the iteration emojis, they could. Let's have a look at everybody's work on iteration. And if somebody doing another task suddenly has an idea on iteration that helps somebody else's, or even starts a new line, they would just put that emoji in there to signify that they've done something and it's specific to iteration. Now, what did I do on Saturday that was different? Instead of giving myself this on-target 25 bonus, I gave myself an on-target TDD testing 90-point bonus. You see? You see there. So now, instead of testing being something, oh, I got to do the testing and, you know, that's going to hurt my arm and, you know, but I got to do it. And I'm only getting 25 points. Now I think, oh, testing, an opportunity to make a guaranteed 90 points each hour, even if I don't accomplish anything, just by doing the testing in the first place. Nicole Forsgren, please explain the behavioral science of that to everybody else. I'm sure you'll love it and you'll understand it. Certainly when you've looked through the documentation, but I hope I'm explaining it well enough. because I'm now giving myself 90 points for testing, I'm more inclined to do testing. If every time I did a test or wrote a test, say if you were right, if this was for if this is 4.6 for a engineer, software engineer, and they wrote a line of code and they wrote the test for it and the test worked, they would give themselves, as well as the bonus for whatever they wrote the line of code. So if they wrote the line of code and they did it really well, they really did something, you know, worth showing other people, you might give yourself a Planck space rocket or a tidal wave, a star, even one of those little chaps that I put in. Or if you've completed a project or completed something, a finishing flag, or if you do something absolutely amazing, you can give yourself a Hawking, but there's really only one Hawking per quarter. Let's get into that behavioral science a bit, because obviously people could cheat. Now, the way to stop cheating is to limit the amount of high scoring emojis you can have per session. A session might be a quarter, might be a week. There's still some work to go on this. A long time ago, the way I worked it, and we can see it all the way down to row 500. You can see here, this is 3 months or 6 months ago. I had my objectives: S-World ASI, Innovate UK, TBS-CC OKRs. Now, every time I gave myself a Planck space rocket, I would put it here. Every time I gave myself an on fire, and so on. Now, at this point, Planck space rocket was the highest you could get, and you were only allowed one space rocket per category per quarter, and then 3 on fires and so many explosions. Now, this isn't a perfect system, but it is an idea of how to introduce such a system to stop people willy-nilly throwing themselves high scores that aren't high. Also, there's the peer evaluation. If I give myself a high score, this space rocket here, let's follow it. Where is that? First OKR DevOps points. Actually, that's that was given to myself for using these testing, and it should be. We should record it. OKR DevOps week 3. Let's just so OKR DevOps should be here in theory. It's not there. It must have been added somewhere else. This is the chaos that's been caused because these categories are no longer as important because I can't add to the... We'll see how this develops. But yeah, I failed on that one. That should have been there. You see, actually I've put it in the... yeah, the StarDF bonus episode, StarDF 53, which is for TDD, Modern Software Engineering, Continuous Delivery, and Microservices. Okay, so I did put it in the right place. What I didn't do was add the score I gave to it here. Because it scored a space rocket, I need to add that space rocket here. You see, I have to do all the info hiding myself, and then grab the reason that was given. See, this would be done automatically. There would be some sort of toggle here, whereas you chose your emoji as soon as you did. Actually, you'd have to choose the emoji and the category the emoji goes into. 2 functions. It's easy enough. Yeah, and here, you see I'm writing it at the top. I give myself a bit of space. I write the day. Throw it in. That's what created that score. And what I would also do, sorry, where was I? Okay, so yeah, that is now there. Now, another thing that I've been working on is this little emoji here. And this is all new from this week. 3 new emojis. The testing emoji, the is applicable to another area, and the information hiding emoji. Basically, this repeat button, it's a repeat emoji. You see here where I did at first try and look in OKR DevOps to see that testing emoji, but it was actually here. So it's been scored in another category, but what if you're only looking in this category and you lose it? Okay, so we put this repeat, that is telling us that it has been scored in another category. So you won't see the score here, you'll just see a repeat button that says it has been scored in another category. It will then tell you what category it's in. Right, so there's the repeat button. That came in on Saturday, and that's what it was. But I actually need to give it a bit more information. I need to give it, in fact, the emoji comes first. The emoji, then the day. I need to give it the category. When there's a repeat button, you need to give it the category, otherwise you won't be able to find it. So that category is star DF60. Really, I should have all this. This is essential information here. This tells you what it is, but it's not on the spreadsheet. Scroll function. Star DF53. Okay. So I've got a Saturday. So this has been scored in another category. The score was 100. It was on a Saturday. I'll put the category in there. Star DF57. Let's just get myself a star. No, it's star DF63. Okay, so I was actually meaning to myself to tighten up the rules on this repeat button, and I'm doing it right now. Okay, so repeat of star DF63. It scored a space rocket. It was on the Saturday, and this is a direct copy of what I've already written down, so as I don't have to write it down twice. And we can see there now, if we go into OKR DevOps, we can see, okay. Sorry. Get rid of that. Cool. Where was I? Yeah. I can now see that this has been, there is a significant score. It's 100. And this is what happened. It was the first time we used the testing emoji. Okay. Let's go back to where that happened. Okay, so we're here. Continue. I was on a roll having put in the testing emoji. And I thought to myself, well, you know what, Nick, you're doing so much information hiding, because I'm having to add all this information here and neaten it up, and you know that takes an hour at the end of the day sometimes, especially when you're doing all this stuff, especially if you've had a very productive day in the garden doing recordings and you've now got to put that into structure. You've got to give it structure. So I'm constantly trying to. That's because I'm a designer. I'm constantly trying to seeing when things are slightly out. Yeah, of course these should be center aligned and the information over to the right, but because of the information hiding where you see this space here, if I didn't have that space, we would start to see the lettering. So I just throw it over there so it's over to the right. Yeah, so at this point, I went to the I did yesterday, so I would have done all of these scores, added these segments in here. I think, yeah, I hadn't added these because I was getting a bit tired, and I redid them all. So that was 1, 2, 3 sessions that I did, copying over, making sure that this was really had all the information it should, and I made the rule about the new repeat, had the and was, working it out as I went along. The very name Nick Ball Smart Creative came up when I was doing this information hiding process. And remember, each of these are not only a record of what's here, in most cases they're a record to the actual document. In this case here, if I went to my cell phone and typed that in, ideally my cell phone's memory would go to my OneDrive, so as then if I put it into my OneDrive, I'd be able to find absolutely everything. So from just this little emoji here, one can immediately see, okay, that's what happened, how much it was worth. In this case, it doesn't have a document, but usually 90% of the case, there would be a document to go with it. One can get that document. So that document, all the information on that document is hidden in this one little emoji, or these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emojis. Okay, let's continue and try and wrap this up within 20 minutes. Okay, so carrying on, Saturday evening. What happened? Yeah, I was just continuing to add this and yesterday's information to here and tidy up all the emojis, each time giving myself one of these new monkey with its hands over its eyes information hiding icon, which is the second icon that comes from this DevOps section. You see here, information hiding. Every time I spend an hour hiding information, I now can give myself 70 points. Or even if I'm sort of spend half an hour doing that and half an hour doing something else, as long as I've started doing that task, it's basically the same psychology or behavioral science as the on-task bonus. Just for doing it, just for turning up. If you do testing and you do information hiding, just for doing it, you get an extra score. These scores in the Quanta Analytica add up to royalties of the system for the rest of the lifetime of the system, which could be forever. The swapping menus function, for example, is a primary function that will always be a part of the system. Without the swapping menus function, there's no ability for everybody to resell everybody else's goods, and you don't then become the biggest seller in the world, hopefully. Okay, so as I go along, or as I get David Farley, Nicole Forsgren, Jess Humble, the entire Patreon community, hopefully, will start adding to these a score for each of these. I haven't had the chance to use them, and because I'm not doing software engineering, I'm only using them in a way that I could use. Well, I suppose I was testing the CSS, so that's fair enough. but the information hiding is my version of information hiding, which only works here to hide the information of what the document is. For example, here we've got a load of information. All of these are different documents with the IDs or different recordings. Okay, so towards the end of the day, I suddenly had the idea for star DF69 TLS V1 voir dire. In fact, I think I've changed its name now slightly, which doesn't help, but you've got the ID, so one would always be able to find it in that way. This continued. I didn't think it was a continuation of the Virgin winner. Hang on. I went over yesterday's perfect segments, but I haven't gone over what the content from Saturday. This was really special. So in the morning, in the first session in the garden in the afternoon with the audio recording, I just talked about the plan that I needed to do over the next few days. Essentially this bit here, putting in these ideas of things that I've got to do, giving them each a little what they're worth, and each time I accomplish any of these on here, I can give the appropriate reward. And this also makes me think, well, you know what, if I get a finishing flag for sending the 2020 version of 64 Reasons Why to Janice Baker, you know what, let's just pick up that phone and do it, because that's worth 333 points. Again, motivating myself to do something that, you know, I don't like to be a salesperson, I don't like to phone people up, so that's not something I naturally want to do, but for 333 points, I'm going to do it as much as I did the testing here, and as much as I now don't mind doing the information hiding. Especially as whilst I'm doing the information hiding, I have ideas like the TLS voir dire. So to go back, I did a basic recording about the Villa Secrets plan, which is essentially the thing that I was testing. It's the HTML widget, and I need to add to villasecrets.com because I'm often showing people this part of it, network.villasecrets. This is network.villasecrets. Villa Secrets itself currently looks like this. I mean, it looks very nice, but it's not, this isn't a travel site. This is a site that is selling the travel franchise. So I need to change this entire homepage to start by saying franchise for sale, give some details of the franchise, then maybe show a part of this to show how nice it looks, giving the example of Lux guides made in 51 seconds. And then below it, I want to drop in this here. The 2023 SWeb 6 VC plan. Now to do this, we needed to make an HTML widget so as I could just drop in the HTML that I've created for this, because all these pages are just hand coded. This is SWeb 5.2, which has a menu system that works really well, but the widget function hasn't been created yet. Sorry, the widget row function, where we just call in a row of pre-made content and then just change the text of it. That functionality isn't here, so I'm having to do everything in HTML, or I used to have to do everything in HTML. Nowadays, I really can't add that much to it because, you know, just this recording that we've heard so far, I'm already in a bit of pain, a little bit of pain in the shoulder and a bit of pain at the hip. But anyway, I needed to copy this HTML where I need to copy all of this into a widget that goes into Villa Secrets. So I can use the Villa Secrets widget making function, and I can drop in HTML. And it was the dropping in the HTML and the CSS problem, because there was conflicting CSS. We have to make it override CSS, and that's what I was testing. Now, all that testing led me to then make this recording here, the Villa Secrets plan, of how I'm going to, what I've just described to you, how I'm going to make that page. So as when people go to Villa Secrets and look at network.villasecrets, when they go to Villa Secrets homepage, they're like, oh, okay, we're selling business franchises. So this led to the next episode, DF69B2, Virgin Limited Edition, Singita, and In Residence and Wilderness. This works really well because it developed, and going into the older plan of having a core team of 4 experts owning the African franchise. Virgin Limited Edition is the company we made the swapping menus function sale, where Cape Villas had an inquiry. We'd added the Experience Africa website to Cape Villas. That generated an inquiry for Experience Africa. That created a $100,000 sale, of which $80,000 went to Virgin Limited Edition and Wilderness. $20,000 came to us, was split $10,000 for Experience Africa for making the inquiry. Sorry, for making the Safari package and making the sale, and $10,000 to Cape Villas just for having it on their website and getting the inquiry in the first place. And that's what the swapping menus function does. Somebody can just suddenly start making a load of money just because someone's come to their website, and on their website they've called in Experience Africa by technically saying to their mobile phone or Sienna AI, Sienna, please add something to my website. I want travel. Let's go for Africa. I want to see safaris. I want luxury. Those keywords would be enough to pull in the menu for Experience Africa into their website, and they can start making those $10,000 referrals. Albeit it's not $10,000, it's $8,750, because we take the $1,250. That's our cut from both the buyer and the seller. We essentially get 2.5% of each of those type of sales. But this was for a complex legal AI service. We would potentially be getting 70%. Okay, so a short recording went back to the plan of getting Virgin Limited Edition to work with Singita and In Residence and Wilderness, 4 of the biggest players in African travel. This continued to start DF69B3, where end with excerpts from GTP page. That's just the idea for the GPT page that was created the day before to describe that. This went into the Virgin winner. Suddenly I just really had an absolutely, it was only 4 minutes long, but it ends up round robbing to Virgin Media having SWeb on its digital platform, so people can make websites and apps and conduct their business by speaking to their TV. That was worth praise symbol, and that's 500 points. That then inspired this StarDF69 coming after StarDF68, the DevOpsOpsOps. Nick Ball, Smart Creative, the Virgin winner. This really is a winner. And we can see all the work on it here. It continued later on. I added that voir dire, and then the next day came a more creative capitalism, or a more creative online capitalism, which is a absolutely wonderful segment that I never get bored of listening to. It really does. Instead of me trying to describe the software as I have done here, I'm now describing it in a different way. I'm forced to be more entertaining, forced to, and I'm just talking away most of the time, and suddenly I'll have a burst of inspiration. And yeah, the weekend was one of those weekends, and now, you know, Star DF68 and 69 have now really become the new type of presentation, because they'll probably go into the video editing software and become the main presentation. All of this will be background for if you want to know more. And I suppose the last episode created, the political one, that's a good one to send out. Right, I'm just gonna, so we've looked at Saturday. You can see right at the bottom, I always give it a, so I can always see the main thing that happened every day, these big text at the bottom, DevOpsOpsOps, everything it takes to make a sale, the Virgin winner, and then the next day, the series continued. I didn't actually think to continue the series. I just thought to listen through yesterday's work and make a new series. I first started with a 20 minutes relatively critical, relatively very critical expose of Department of Work and Pensions and other problems. But right in the middle of it, I go back to the 2012 Facebook products CRM idea I had for psychology and entangled that into rules that would detect scammers. Therefore, I'm going to the Department of Work and Pensions with a complaint about how they've just got this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But also, this is what you can do to save yourself an awful lot of money. That then continued, or no, that didn't continue. That becomes a new episode on its own. Then came a more creative online capitalism. That was the winner. After that, make YouTube podcasts. Just had some ideas. That was an idea to make the podcast on YouTube, because I can just string one to another so as they repeat. The only trouble is I think YouTube shows ads alongside, so someone will be watching this presentation and then after the fourth one an ad will come along and it'll get very confusing. So whilst that was a good idea, it's probably not something I'm going to continue. Then I tried Spotify podcasts beyond Star DF66. Oh yeah, I tried to get the normal Spotify to work, even with Spotify for podcasting to work, even without their CMS. But I just got file directory errors and all sorts of problems, processing errors. Restarted the phone. Some of that helped, but I still can't. I can't load episodes. It won't. It just basically has failed. And the point here is, it's supposed to have been made in microservices. This gets to an episode, the bonus episode, Star DF67, that I haven't really made yet. I've got to do more research to give a really good review of exactly what happened. Number one, they discontinued the service. Number two, they moved it to another company. And number three, they'd already bought this new service that was, they'd already bought the what was it called? Anchor. They bought Anchor. So while Spotify is supposed to be made from microservices, every time they buy a new piece of technology, that new technology is not made necessarily in microservices. And they're trying to scramble all these things together, putting logins that and they are just failing left, right, and center. It's like when good microservices go bad, and it's a very good reason why you can't just say we're going to use microservices and everything's fine. Microservices without test-driven design, and if you want to latch on to another company's technology that hasn't used microservices, what do you do then? You've got to compromise. SWeb6VC only ever makes technologies out of the network in the first place. You never come across that problem, and all of this is explained in this DevOpsOpsOps, and Nick Ball, Smart Creative, the Virgin winner. Okay, so last of all, what did I do? I added to the Q planner, giving myself another 70 points, and I didn't mind doing it because I got those extra 70 points. I mean, I was, last week I was battling from the minus 710 from the Spotify thing flying out. I mean, it's not my fault that the Spotify thing flied out, got discontinued, but it certainly did, cause a lot of upset. So that has to be reflected in the score. What this equates to is this last week I didn't score as much as I did the week before, even though I got a lot more done. So there's obviously a problem there because it's not reflecting that the score was as good as it is. But these are, not, I haven't designed the entire thing. I've come this far, and, as we work together, we can home in those rules. Okay, so where are we? And we've hit. This is one of the last things I did. So this week, remembering that there are a few things in here that this is actually going to have to. The Microsoft Day. I've been moving this over a week for so long. It's been about half a year. I've been supposed to phone Microsoft and sort out their emails, but okay. So generally, as discussed in the last video I made, this quarter I'm doing a different plan. Instead of really writing out everything I've got to do throughout the week, I'm trying to leave space as much as possible to choose my project. So let's have a look at this afternoon. Well, I've done this. This is what I'm doing right now. So I've got the whole afternoon, and these two here are things that I don't have to work on, but they're kind of cool things to do late at night anyway. So that's just there for inspiration. But all of this is choose my project. Although here I really have to do the Sienna add one way or the other, either programming it Python into Azure or in Descript. So here we've got the tasks. Instead of having a regimented waterfall week, I have space to do what I want, what I feel I'm best doing, or whatever interests me from this task list. Each of which we know how much it's worth. There's tasks I don't want to do here, as well as tasks that I do want to do. But some of these tasks that I don't want to do are worth a lot of points, and I can do them in, well, actually, I don't mind writing to Helen Maguire, but the Department of Work and Pensions letter, I really don't want to do that. I want to be doing this technology. Okay, so yeah, I think we're complete. Quite happy. So I'm going to say goodbye and see you in the next video of my third quarter of 2024. Thanks for watching. I'm Nick Ball. Cheers.